Chapter 11. The World. Even after releasing this amazing documentary with a global recession, it took more than 3 years to get the funding we needed to move forward. The highs and lows of those 3 years could fill a book on their own. With funding came more filming and a new, more robust website. My husband Brian joined the company as his skills in finance and accounting were a missing skill set from our team. I knew that Gemini was going to be controversial, and I absolutely had to have clinical trials completed and published before launching to the public. The first pilot study was with a teaching classroom for Gonzaga University. 6 of these children had low verbal abilities, and 2 who were nonverbal despite 3 years in an intensive program. After 5 months with Gemini, these 2 children not only gained language, but were speaking in sentences. Next came a larger preschool study with Spokane Public Schools, in which different classroom styles were compared. It was found that the efficacy of Gemini in the classroom differs drastically depending on how the teacher uses it. And this study produced the classroom protocols. Portland State University conducted a randomized clinical trial in the Inglewood School District in California and showed that Gemini was 300% more effective than standard video modeling. Ontario Montclair School District conducted one of the largest studies in autism, with over 160 children. This study showed that Gemini could teach receptive and expressive language to more severely affected children who had not been able to learn after years of therapy and classroom teaching. 2 of these studies are currently in peer review, and 1 is published. Due to the death of the editor of the journal, the Portland study took 2 years to publish after it was accepted for publication. 2 years of waiting to launch, and 2 years of children not receiving this life-changing therapy almost killed me. The wait was agonizing, but I just didn't have the choice to launch prior to publication. We had to have several more rounds of funding to get to launch, but with the grace of God, we made it. And when we did launch, it was almost by accident. Dr. Maria Gilmore, who was the researcher on the Portland State study, just happened to find a paper that had been published about Gemini without our knowledge. The abstract didn't mention Gemini by name, and so it didn't come up in searches. Portland's study still didn't have a publication date, but we had our first published study. And oh, what a study it was! The researchers were professors from 3 universities, including the former director of clinical psychology for Princeton. The study subjects were all adults, which was very rare in autism research. Nearly all other study subjects are small children. These findings showed that Gemini's discrete video modeling method was effective at teaching not only language, but articulation and reading, which were more firsts for video modeling in general. The researchers included a survey for the teachers who administered the trial. Teachers are notorious for not implementing novel therapy approaches, and I can't really blame them. Most approaches are created in clinics under sterile conditions and don't hold up under the chaos of the classroom. All the teachers surveyed said that they would continue to implement Gemini after the trial and that it was easy to use. Even I, in my wild optimism, wouldn't have dreamed up a study like this. I could finally get it to the public. But how? There was so much snake oil out there now with autism. Would anyone really believe me? How would I get their attention? How could I get parents, weary of spending thousands on empty promises, to give it a chance? I wrote a script that told the entire Gemini story in 8 minutes to accompany the before and after video of John. It warned parents that many kiddos don't like the videos at first. I encouraged them to have their children watch during meals and not give up. It was a message of hope, and more importantly, offered proof that the program worked. We embedded the video on the website homepage and our Facebook page. I paid about $50 to advertise the video to people in the U.S. who had something to do with autism. Within a few hours, we had our first Gemini members. Our Facebook likes started to climb. Within a week, we were signing up dozens of new members each day. Testimonials were coming in. Parents were videoing their children talking. The whole enterprise was growing in leaps and bounds until it was almost out of control. The website still had a lot of bugs, and we had to create workaround solutions on the fly to prevent service lapses to members. The website started to look like a patchwork quilt of pieced-together buttons, but parents were forgiving. They knew it was working for their children, and that we were working as fast as we could too. What was more, the Gemini community was coming together online. Parents and professionals were helping and encouraging each other. The news outlets were calling us for interviews. The dream was becoming a reality. 5 months after we launched, I received a message from Mary Kay Deal, the mother of a child with Down syndrome. She wanted to start a private support page just for families with DS who were using Gemini. Her page grew by hundreds of people each week, and now, years later, it is Gemini Central for thousands of families using the program, no matter the diagnosis of their child. The community came full circle in another way. Mothers who were grateful for their children's success with Gemini quit their jobs to work for us. These mothers make up our product specialist team. They spend hours every day speaking with other parents and giving them tips and tricks to make the program as efficacious as possible. Gemini has been filmed in American Sign Language, Australian Sign Language, French, Chinese, Spanish, and Arabic. It is used in over 40 countries. The snowballing popularity did not go unnoticed by the media. I have appeared on CBS, NBC, ABC, and HLN, and the Orange County Register named me as one of the 100 most influential people in Orange County, California. Additionally, Gemini has been featured by CNN, the UK Independent, and many more journals and periodicals. I have lectured to members of the Jordanian Ministry of Health and the Mexican Department of Education. I even gave a 20-minute lecture in Spanish to the Mexican Congress. Today, Gemini is a modern marvel of both efficacy and tenacity. I have people chase me down at autism conferences to tell me through their tears of happiness how grateful they are for hearing their children's voices. You would think that I would finally be content. Nope. I still sit up at night thinking about those children who haven't tried it, or almost worse, whose parents quit too soon. I know why they quit, but I don't know how to get them not to quit. About 5% of Gemini kiddos start to speak within the first few minutes of seeing the program. Their parents are overcome with joy. They film their children like crazy and post all over social media. It is through these little miracles that Gemini has grown so fast. After seeing a parade of miracles across their newsfeed over several months, even the most downtrodden parents who have tried everything are willing to give it a go. The problem is that most autistic people take longer than a few minutes to talk. And despite begging and pleading, most parents do not test their children receptively. Language is divided into what we understand, or receptive speech, and what we say, or expressive speech. Nearly everyone learns receptively with Gemini in the first few months, but expressive speech is another thing entirely. Many people with autism or Down syndrome have apraxia, or dyspraxia of speech, as it is called in the UK and Australia. Apraxia used to be called mutism years ago, and most people still know it by that name. There is a long and complicated explanation of what it is and what it is not from a neurological point of view. As Dr. William Mobley, Director of Neuroscience at UCSD, said, the important thing is that we know that Gemini works. Finding out why it works is more academic than practical. But the quick definition is not being able to speak, even though you know what you want to say. Some speech therapists won't even accept clients with an apraxia diagnosis, as it is very difficult to treat. Gemini has been shown to be one of the only methods, and by far the easiest, to treat speech apraxia. But it takes time, and no one can tell you exactly how long it will take for your particular child. We have seen some children with apraxia start to talk the first week, but many more take months or even years. Above all, parents and professionals need to avoid the temptation to project their own learning experience on people with apraxia. Too many assume if he has seen this video 1,000 times and he still can't say it, he is never going to say it. Gina Pope has a background in special education, so she knows her son's triumph over Apraxia was going to be a marathon, not a sprint. She writes, "My youngest son, 7, has severe apraxia and ASD. He has been in therapy since he was 23 months. We started Gemini right before his 5th birthday. It took 2 years to get vocals in the form of words and phrases. He now has 21 spontaneous words with a few I want phrases. Best news is we have approximations and verbal attempts on almost everything now. This vocal expression has all been in the last few months." You may wonder why I stuck it out for 2 years, or if in fact it was Gemini that caused this language burst. But I can tell you Gemini is a key component to his growth. Because of my background in child development and education, I knew the other measures of success, not just verbal language. 1. Eye contact and awareness. That improved within weeks of using Gemini. 2. His imitation skills. Gemini was critical at helping teach motor and vocal imitation. 3. Receptive language. The growth in his receptive language was immense and immediate. Animals, body parts, appliances, community helpers, instruments, shapes, letters, numbers, etc., etc. We did it all, and he learned it all. I knew if we just kept improving his receptive, the expressive would come. Last but not least, I measured his reading. My son may not speak, but with Gemini, we helped him read. He can read words at the 2nd and 3rd grade level, which is amazing. I guess my point is sometimes success is not measured in the way we assume. Some of us moms need to know success for us right now may not be vocal, but the fact that he will follow you banging a drum or learning to identify a rhombus. Gemini is an arsenal. For some, it's a cannon that blows right through. For some of us, it's a trench digger. But hey, I love getting dirty, and either way, we can get to the other side. Sometimes it happens that once a child starts to talk, the words come faster, and they are saying 20 new words in a month. Sometimes they will only add 1 new word a month. But in nearly all cases, understanding is improving dramatically, and once the person understands, they can learn to read and to write or type. You see, the important thing is to give the person a means to communicate. If it isn't through expressive speech, then typing or sign language is a lifesaver. But if the person doesn't have enough receptive language, none of these alternative communication methods will work. Receptive language is the most important building block, and most parents don't understand this. In fact, when parents finally venture to test their child's receptive language, they are amazed at how much they are learning from Gemini. It gives them hope and the mental strength to carry on. That being said, we never stop working for expressive speech. I've seen it come after 3 years of Gemini, even though years of traditional speech therapy didn't produce results. Unlike almost any other method known, and certainly anything so widely available and affordable, Gemini is effective even with older people who have apraxia. Janine Roberts from Australia writes, "Our 19-year-old daughter, Steph, had about 4 words she used regularly, despite having spent most of her life in therapy. These words were not clear, but we knew what they meant. Within a week of starting Gemini, she had picked up 3 new words and said them clearly. After another week, 2 more. So now, 6 months later, she has about 40 words she can say. She has gained more eye contact, tries harder to participate in activities, and with prompting, is trying to say new words all the time. She is watching our mouths when we speak. She is still shy about speaking and rarely speaks to anyone unless she is particularly motivated, usually by food. But every word is an absolute gift, and one step closer to being able to communicate her needs and wants to us all." As automated as we have tried to make Gemini in its subsequent iterations, it is almost impossible to make a plug-and-play version suitable for every person on the planet. For some people, it is necessary to venture to the complete video library to create videos from our clips, which can be tailored to the specific person's needs. This is especially true of people who have a large discrepancy in their receptive and expressive language, or who are older. For these members, it is best for parents, therapists, or caregivers to get on a call with our specialists so they can be pointed in the right direction. I wish that everyone could see what I have witnessed with this program and get all parents to test their children's weekly receptive gains like we did with the twins. I wish that they could understand the underlying neurological effect and that they could feel confidence in the process of learning. I want to tell them, just dive in. The waves may look scary, but it is so beautiful out here in the surf, you will never regret venturing out. Sometimes it seems like an eternity between sets, but just hang in there. The big one is worth the wait.